And so I'm not going to continue on with that series. Book premises, premise. I don't know. I liked it. Probably went in with expectations that were super high. Hey everyone, welcome back for another monthly wrap-up. This is monthly wrap-up number 2 on this channel, and I'm super excited because February was so much better than January in terms of what books I read. So for those of you who tuned into the January monthly wrap-up, you will recall that January got off to a very shaky start with some really terrible books. I did rally and I got some good books in there eventually, but February has been much, much better. A lot of really, really good books. Very, very happy with the books that I read this month. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about those books that I read, just really briefly. Then we're going to talk about some things you can expect to see coming up on this channel. And then we're going to talk about my March TBR, which I'm very, very excited about. So let's talk about all the books that I read in February. At the end of January, I was still finishing up Arch Enemies, which is book number 2 in the Renegades Trilogy by Marissa Meyer. That is a young adult fiction, superhero fiction. Really, really fun book. I did enjoy it. There will be a full review for that book out on my channel probably before this one gets released. So probably before the February wrap-up is released, you will be able to see the Arch Enemies book review. In addition to that, my plan is to release a second video about Arch Enemies where I talk about some of the specific things that I liked and some of the specific things that I didn't like about that book. I will talk more about that in the middle section of this video with some of the stuff that you can expect to see coming up on this channel. But Arch Enemies, thumbs up. I also got to read Stormfront, which is the first book in the Dresden Files. That is my first foray into the Dresden Files, and I have to say I loved it. That is a book that is right up my alley. A lot of silly characters, a lot of silly but fun premise. Book premises. I don't know. I liked it. I liked it a lot. So I will return to the Dresden Files really, really quickly. Hint, hint about my March TBR. What else did I read? I also read The Conductors by Nicole Glover, I believe is the author. And what do I say about The Conductors? For those of you who tuned into my previous wrap-up video, you will know that I was operating under the premise. Did I just use the word premise again? Did I use it correctly this time? I was operating under the theory that readers had gotten confused with The Conductors and The Cartographers. The Cartographers being a book I read in January that was terrible. And so I wondered why both books got really good reviews, and so I was hoping that I would read The Conductors and think, oh, people just got these books confused, and that's why The Cartographers got such good reviews. I was wrong. Well, I don't know that I was wrong. They may have gotten the books confused. The Conductors wasn't very good either. But we will do a review on that book later this month. Some of the other books that I read. How did I almost forget about this? The big one that I jumped into was the Mistborn Trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, or I should say the Mistborn Saga, because I know it's more than a trilogy now. And so I had never read Mistborn, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was not perfect. I probably went in with expectations that were super high, and that's probably why I felt it was just really, really good instead of like super amazing. Again, I don't regret reading any of it. I thought it was very, very well done. There were a couple of problems for me in that book, and I will talk about those in a couple of videos. So I'll do my book review, and then I will also do what I'm going to call, well, we'll see. I'll tell you what I'm going to call that here in a little bit. In addition, I read the next book, I think it was book 2 in the Cradle series by Will White, that is Soulsmith. And I will tell you this in brief summary. I will not be continuing on with the Cradle series at this time. There is a chance I will revisit it, but there's not a very high chance that I will revisit it. I was really hopeful that book 2 would continue on where book 1 left off and I like the second half of book 1. I feel like book 2 kind of just added to my confusion and feelings of being overwhelmed. And so it was just kind of meh. And so I'm not going to continue on with that series. So for fans of the Cradle series, leave me a comment below. Tell me why. Convince me that I should pick this series back up. Otherwise, sorry. I'm gonna DNF that and move on to something else. For those of you who may not know, one of my all-time favorite authors, I mentioned him last video, Mike Resnick. I am currently reading his Starship series. I just finished book 3, Starship Mercenary. I will do a review on that entire series when I finish book 5. So look for a review on that sometime in April or May. But I will tell you, as all Mike Resnick books that I read, it delivers for me. So I really, really enjoy it. I don't know that they're for everyone, or at least the Starship books. I don't know that they're for everyone. I do think Mike Resnick is one of the most underappreciated science fiction authors that there is or ever has been. But we will talk about that some other time when I do a Mike Resnick dedication video or something like that. A couple of other things that I did manage to sneak in right under the wire, and probably because I did them with audiobooks, which I don't typically read audiobooks. I know I still, maybe it's because I'm old. I'm an old man, and it's weird for me to say the word read and audiobook. So I listened to these on audiobook, and I did enjoy them both. One even a little more than the other. One of the reasons why I don't listen to a lot of audiobooks is because I really struggle to maintain focus. I am a visual learner. I don't always do well with audio stuff. And so I don't typically read books that way. However, in this case, this was the way I could get a hold of these 2 books. And so that's what I ran with. And it was really, really fun. So I don't regret that. But those 2 books are Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. somebody Mandel, something. I can't remember her name. Same author who wrote Station 11. And so that was a really fun and really well-produced audiobook. There were several different narrators for different character points of view, and really well done. Really enjoyed that story. I think it was relatively short. Really, really enjoyed it a lot. Recommend it. And I will do a review for that on my channel here coming up soon. The other one that I think is going to win a Old Man Reviews award, a monthly award. And that is, and I'm not just saying this because he is a booktuber that I really admire and I think he puts out fantastic content, but Daniel Green released his Breach of Peace audiobook on YouTube. And he has a whole video talking about why he's releasing those, his novellas on YouTube, and I will leave a link to that in my description. I will tell you, Daniel, well done. It was a very, very enjoyable novella. I know he did a really silly review on it when that book was first released, and he basically made the comment that he couldn't objectively review his own book, which I have a lot of admiration for him being willing to admit that. But he said he was proud of it, and I will say this. Daniel, you should be proud of it. It was very well done. I really, really enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next book. And I know that will be coming out on your YouTube channel soon, and I will listen to that as soon as it comes out. So that book, Breach of Peace, wins the monthly award for the best surprise. So that was the one that I didn't really have a lot of expectations going in. And maybe that's why I found it so enjoyable, whereas like Mistborn was super well done again, but my expectations were so sky high that it probably wasn't realistic for it to deliver on what my expectations were. So perhaps A Breach of Peace benefits from the lack of any expectations. I didn't really have any good or bad expectations, but really, really enjoyed it. I will not do a full review on that on my channel, but I plan to do maybe like a short review on it or a micro review. But for those of you who haven't listened to it or read it, I would highly recommend go out and do that. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It was really, really enjoyable. The other award that I want to give out this month is the Disappointing Award. Now, I will say, as much as I'm telling you that I liked Mistborn, that is a runner-up. Because, again, unfairly to Brandon and his book, Mistborn, The Final Empire, my expectations were super high, and it didn't hit on my expectations, which may be more to do with how unrealistic my expectations were than anything that was wrong with the book. Although I do think there were a couple things that made me go, really? However, when I really think about it, I super enjoyed that book. So that wouldn't be fair. The biggest disappointment for me this month was probably Soulsmith. Again, The Conductors was a much worse book than Soulsmith, but I went into that kind of expecting that maybe it wasn't that good. With Soulsmith, I had some pretty big expectations and some pretty big hopes that it would deliver on the promise of the end of the first book, and it didn't hit on any of those. So, for that reason, I'm not discouraging any of you from going out to read it. I know a lot of people really like that book and like that series, and so I would tell you to give it a try and see if maybe it's just a me thing. Maybe it's just my old man self. I don't know that I'm the target market for those books anyway, but I do know there's other people my age who really, really enjoy them. So there you go. There's my surprise of the month and my disappointment of the month. Last month's video, I did what I thought was a really great book haul. I only bought one book this month. It turns out I didn't really understand what a book haul is or was. Whatever. Okay. And so I'm not going to try to tell you that I have any kind of book haul this month. I don't have any funds for new books, and I've got plenty of books in my house that I haven't read yet. I'm not really buying any books right now, so I don't have a book haul. So instead of a book haul, I'm going to kind of talk about some of the things that you can expect to see on the channel in the coming weeks. I'm still very much committed to doing a review a week, and I will continue to do that. Also, you should look out for a couple of new things. One is going to be some micro reviews. So I have a lot of books that I've read, and they don't really make for good reviews, or they're, I don't know, maybe they're just not that interesting of books, but they're not terrible either. And so I don't want to dedicate a whole, 5 to 10 minute video just being like, well, I don't know, it was mediocre. And so what my plan is to make those into some shorts. So if you are curious because you've been watching me on Goodreads and you know I've read the books, or you're tuning into these monthly wrap-ups and you know that they were on my list and you want a little bit of opinion on like what I liked and what I didn't like about it, I'm going to do those in micro reviews. But then we have some books, and the two on my mind right now are Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer and Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. These are books that I want to be able to give you guys a spoiler-free review, and I will continue to do those. But I also want to dive into a few of the particulars on what I really, really liked and what I really, really didn't. And to do that, I need to deliver some spoilers. But I kind of figure it's more like a book club, right? Like those old-fashioned bunch of ladies, that's the stereotype, sorry ladies, bunch of ladies get together, they all read a book, and then they talk about some of the specifics in the book. What I want to do is a couple times a month, I'm going to do what I call a book review, where we dive into some of the very specific things that I liked about a book or didn't like about a book, and give you guys a chance and a forum to give me comments back on specific things you liked or didn't like about that very same book without fear of dropping spoilers. So these will be spoiler full videos, and again, I will invite spoiler comments in those videos so that we can maybe get some kind of dialogue about those specific things that make us love and hate books. So those are some of the videos you can expect to see coming up. Now let's talk about my March TBR. I'm super excited for a couple of really big reasons. One, I'm planning on continuing on with a couple of series that I really, really like. I'm superstitious by nature. So last month was a really good reading month, and I started off with one of the books in the Renegades Trilogy. So this month, I'm starting off with the third book in the Renegades Trilogy. I just started reading it. It'll probably take me a few days to finish it, but I will not finish that until a good bit into March. And so I'm starting off with Supernova by Marissa Meyer, book 3 in that Renegades Trilogy. I'm going to finish out that trilogy. Additionally, my plan is to continue on with the Mike Resnick Starship series, and so I'll be reading Starship Rebel, and I'm also going to continue on with the Dresden Files book, and so book 2 in that is called Full Moon, I think, right? F-O-O, Full Moon? No, I think it's Fool, F-O-O-L. How many O's did I put in that? Okay, just the 2 O's. Okay, so Full Moon, I believe, is that. I'm also going to continue on with the Mistborn saga, so I'll be reading The Well of Ascension. The one I'm most excited to read, though, the book that I'm most excited to read, that I will be reading next after I finish Supernova, is The Blade Itself. So I've never read Joe Abercrombie. I know that some of my favorite booktubers really, really love the... what's it called? The First Law trilogy. And so I'm super excited to read this. The expectations are really, really high. This is kind of similar to how I approached Mistborn last month. And so I hope that I can keep my expectations in check so that I don't over-expect, because that's kind of what I did to Mistborn. Additionally, there's a couple other books that I want to read. The Alchemist, which is an older book by... I can't remember the author's name. He's Brazilian, I believe. Paulo something, maybe. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I'll put it up here on the screen somewhere, like what his name is. Or I'll probably just do the book cover so you can read his name. So I'm going to read that. I also want to read, and these are books that you can probably see on my shelf here somewhere. I think it's like over here somewhere. And I also am going to read Goliath, is right there. My plan is to read those. But in addition, and March should be a month where I get to read a lot more books than I did in February. Or maybe not a lot more, but a few more. I also have been looking online, and there are a ton of ebooks that are free that you can download on your Kindle. And so my plan is to take a stab at a couple of those and see the quality of those. I haven't really read any ebooks. And by ebooks, I mean those that are primarily or almost exclusively published electronically. So these are books that there aren't really physical copies of. So my plan is to read a few of those. And so I've got my sights set on a couple that caught my eye with their covers and or titles. And so I have to read you the first one because the title is super long. And so, hold on. That is ebook number 1, How I Magically Messed Up My Life in 4 Freaking Days. Now, if that doesn't sound like a cool book title, then I don't know what does. That sounds totally awesome to me. And so we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm getting sold on an awesome title and cover. And if so, oh well. Additionally, the other ebook that I want to read is called The Thing from HR, and that looks to be some kind of spoof on the Cthulhu something or other, so maybe inspired by H.P. Lovecraft-ish stuff. So I look forward to both of those. Again, with being on a book buying hiatus, I figured this is a way for me to kind of cheat the system. Instead of clearing off all my bookshelf with all the books that I haven't read, I can still get new books without paying for them. So that's my plan for now. That is it. That is everything that I did in February, everything I plan to do in March, and all the things you can expect to see coming up in this channel in the coming weeks. And let's start planning for April already. If you have ideas on books that you think I should read, put a comment in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions. Maybe you guys can tune me into some good books that I haven't even considered yet. So I do have a really, really long list of books that I want to and plan to read, but I'm always open to new suggestions. So let me know if there's something you think I should read, and maybe I'll pick it up. In the meantime, I'll keep reading what's on my TBR, and I hope that you will keep tuning in to these reviews and all these videos like you've been doing. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video.